On November 26, 2024, my family and I took Thanksgiving week to travel to Vilonia, Arkansas to visit and stay at the Titan Ranch facility in a former Titan II missile site that was converted into an Airbnb. While we were there, we visited the Jacksonville Museum for Military History, where we had the opportunity to meet and listen to Jack Meadows, retired missile specialist for the United States Air Force. Jack consented to allow us to video his private briefing that he gave us while we were there, and I'm sharing that here with you. I hope you enjoy.
No, sir.
Y'all the ones that spent the night out at the,
Titan missile silo? Yes.
were you ready for a shock?
Yes.
I'm with the original Titan II crew members from 70 years ago.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Would you like a Titan missile briefing?
Sure.
Yes.
You okay if I record it?
Well, sure.
All right.
Michael. Oh, our son.
And guess what? Here's this fancy piece of. Okay, I'm Jack Meadows. I'm a volunteer here. Been a volunteer for almost 20 years, ever since you opened up. But I really was a Titan crew member. That's the guy with the hard hat. That's me. From the 1963. It was a four-man crew. 2 officers and 2 enlisted people.
Oh, he's bringing it
And
up.
I'm in this picture somewhere. Can you pick me out?
The one over here on the far left on our side.
It's on the name tag, right? I usually keep it a secret that there was 2 enlisted guys on there. And are you ready for this? I was 32 years old in that picture.
Okay.
Are you ready for this, folks? I just turned 88. I checked my ID card occasionally so I don't know I'm lying to people. Our missiles were located north of the air base on the map there, 30 to 70 miles out from the base. There were 18 of them until that one blew up in the silo in 1980. It really happened. It's over near Morrilton, and y'all were at the bed and breakfast, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's right in the middle of the map, Faulkner County, where the red tape is.
Okay.
The other 2 red tapes, one in the upper left-hand corner in Van Buren County, that's the one where the missile blew up in the silo.
That was in 1980.
Yep.
Damascus.
That's right. You're really good. How did you know about all this?
I read the book that talked about it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, there was a book that
It's called Command
and Control. Yeah.
Made for TV movie, by the way.
Well, yeah, we're maybe going to watch that tonight. So
We got part of that movie right here.
do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to maybe watch that tonight. But yeah, I read about that
right-hand
one.
side in Searcy County, White County in Searcy.
Okay.
They had a bad accident out there too in 1965. There was a Corps of Engineers group of 55 men out there working in silo. One of the guys that was operating a welder, he didn't directly cut a hydraulic line, but the heat from a welder melted the outer steel braid on that pressurized hydraulic line. It blew up in his face. It killed him immediately. All that burning hydraulic fluid got down one level below where he was working in his electrical power system coming into the site. Shut down all the lights, fans, everything. And that missile site became a tomb because the flash fire killed all the oxygen. And 53 of the 55 guys died. The families of those guys that died bought a monument for them. It's out here on the grounds.
Yeah, we saw that.
That's what that monument's all about.
Yeah.
Okay. The missile, look at the banner up here. The picture on the left is a picture of a Titan II being launched from the silo. It was the only liquid fuel missile we had that could be maintained in the silo and launched from the silo. It was 103 feet tall, 10 feet in diameter, had a 9.5 megaton nuclear bomb. Just to give you an idea how big that is, that's 700 times more powerful than the Hiroshima bomb in World War II. Over the right-hand side, oh, by the way, it's the most powerful weapon ever deployed in the world, by the way. And the Soviets knew that. On the right-hand side is a Titan II launching a two-man Gemini space capsule. We were space flight qualified. The Soviet Union knew that. They knew we had the most powerful weapon ever deployed in the world. And they also knew that we could launch this console in under 1 minute. Being the Soviet Union in 35 minutes. That's downright scary, isn't it?
Terrifying.
And this old boy from the cotton fields of northeast Arkansas actually got to work out there. Couldn't believe it. Let me launch it for you. It's a silent launch because there's some music plays through this console and I can't talk over it. I'm not getting any older, but my voice is. I'll launch it for you and I'll turn the sound up where you can appreciate it. It's a launch from Vandenberg Air Force Base in California.
Okay.
It's our test base. It was also our training base. It's on its way down the Pacific Test Range with no warhead, all telemetry.
The Titan II, huge, powerful, and potentially hazardous.
Titan II missiles would be deployed in hardened holes in the ground at Air Force bases in Kansas, Arizona, and Arkansas. The missile silos would be small fortified cities, several miles apart, where a four-man crew would live and work 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Life on alert was often boring, sometimes intense, but always critical. In the 24 years it stood sentinel, Titan II was the keeper of the peace. And even though no Titans were ever fired in anger, their very presence made the United States too powerful to attack. Of all the arms in America's arsenal, the Soviet Union feared Titan the most, and for a quarter century, the Titan missile kept the wolf at bay.
Okay. Four-man
Gotta
crew.
love Lockheed.
2 officers to enlist. 24 on and 48 off, usually. Sometimes it was different, depending on leave time and other activities, but that was the standard schedule. I had a weird job on the crew. And did you see the cutaway of the missile site where it looks underground?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. We lived in that dome-shaped building. That was our control center where we lived and worked. That's your bed and breakfast.
Yeah, yeah.
The entry level, as you can see, you came down all those steps coming inside. In that picture, it looks like that top side of it looks like it's below ground, but that top part is at grade level. Okay. Mr. Hill opened up that portion first. He didn't bother with a silo, and of course the control center was full of crud and water and stuff after 25 years being closed down. In fact, he almost bought the farm. If you can imagine a dome-shaped building trapped underground all those years with water and crud in there, a bunch of methane gas was trapped in that top dome-shaped level where the master bedroom is. They almost bought it before they realized what they were dealing with. Also, when they
He
opened up
didn't mention that.
those big blast doors you walk through, the big those doors weighed 3 tons apiece. And when they opened those doors, they almost got drowned with all the water behind those doors. Yeah. I'm going to do this for you guys. I usually write Titan Ranch on the back of my card, but y'all don't need that because you've been there already.
Yep, we're going back in a little while after we get done with our day. So
But pass that around. Each of you can have one of my cards. Now, let me tell you more about them. You got a few minutes?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. My job on that silo, believe it, we were all trained to copy and decode an encoded message, a launch message. We could communicate with anybody in the world. We usually got our launch orders, our practice launch orders, from the command post on the base, or from an alternate command post. One of the missile sites was an alternate command post. We also, in time of war, we get our communication directly from the Pentagon, or you ever heard of the Airborne Command Post? Looking Glass. We get our message from there too. No, we could get a message, but one problem is if we Russians start throwing bombs at us, guess what? Here goes all of our power. We can launch that missile on 28 volt DC. Think about a couple of car batteries jammed together.
Right.
The airborne power supply.
28 volt.
She's a science teacher, so she's extremely interested in
You
what
would
you
really
have to say.
appreciate this. Yeah.
2 car batteries. Yeah.
We had 480 volts power coming in, and I was like a missile facilities technician, which in fancy words is I was a CE guy on a missile crew.
Yeah.
We all had launch duties to take care of. My job was every day when I went on duty and the other crew left the complex, I had to go out and inspect every pump, fan, motor, circuit breaker, that whole, it was like a big factory underground. That was my job, inspecting everything. Then I had to monitor 24 hours. That gray front thing there, it's called the Facility Power Control Board. I could operate and maintain and monitor every piece of equipment in that entire complex from that thing there. Now, we had 480 volts power coming in from the local power company. So what happens when we lose our power? We have a diesel that comes on the line that operates a generator. It's kind of handy, isn't it? So we got 480 volts power. But when the Soviet Union starts launching missiles at us, we withstand a nuclear blast on our doorstep. Not on the top of our door, but on our doorstep within a city block or so of the complex. But there goes all your power. When the 2 officers turn their launch keys, the first thing you see is launch enable. A group of 28 volt DC solenoids operates all that equipment. First thing you see is launch enable. It tells the commander, hey, the launch sequence has started. The next thing is batteries activated. A little solenoid turned on the batteries on the missile. They just standby out there until launch. And then a 28 volt DC solenoids operated all the equipment, including moving a 750 ton door. It was actually operated by 3,500 PSI hydraulic system. But solenoids operated the controls to get that hydraulic system operating.
Because once it starts moving, it's going to keep moving.
And the thing about, to me, this is like 1940s and 50s and 60s technology.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we were able to keep one of these, not us, but the National Park Service. We closed down in 1987. But the National Park Service was able to maintain one of these as a museum. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, GT told us.
Tucson, Arizona.
Well,
Yeah,
I don't.
about the
Oh,
one in
that one.
Tucson,
I thought he
yeah.
meant local. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that.
Tucson, Arizona. A couple of years ago, we had a missile reunion here, and I was on the committee because I'm one of the old timers. And we talked, first of all, we talked Mr. Hill into letting us come out to his bed and breakfast. But
Well, yeah, you should have a reunion out there.
my son was 15 years old when I was on crew here.
Okay.
I got to take him out to the missile site and give him a tour of a live missile site. I even got to lower a platform, let him walk out and touch a live missile. That was impressive for a 12-year-old.
Sorry, I never got to do that.
But believe it or not, 2 years ago, also, the same year we had that reunion, my son lives in Corpus Christi. He called me and said, Dad, let's go to the museum, Arizona sometime. So I flew to Dallas and met him. We flew to Arizona together. We went to that missile museum. And since I was the guy, it's mostly civilians running it after all these years. But they had an old timer there, was a former missile crew member. He said, Jack, would you like to launch our missile? I said, well, I got to do it every day at Little Rock. But I said, why don't you let my son do it? He let my son launch the missile. Then we went out to the silo and saw the missile we just launched. It was great.
Mm-hmm.
Have y'all ever heard of Paul Harvey?
What is it?
Paul Harvey.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I have a little short rest of the story to tell you if you don't mind.
Good.
It's a personal Paul Harvey rest of the story. Before I got into missiles, I was an aircraft mechanic on the old KC-97, which was the air refueling plane that preceded the KC-135. I got deployed to 8 countries in 8 years. Went to England for 3 months one time. While we were there, we got to go to Saudi Arabia and refuel the first around the world non-stop flight of B-52s. California, around the globe, back to California.
Grandpa Buff.
And I was a ground crew member. I was assistant crew chief. The crews flew them and broke them, and we fixed them. But my crew chief, Billy Fuller, said, "Jack, you want to fly on this mission tonight?" Duh.
Yes,
Just
please.
mission. I get to work on these things on the ground and never fly. So I jumped on that plane like a kid with a toy. I was really ready to go. Just before hookup, oh, by the way, it was under a full moon over Saudi Arabia at night, just like daylight. It was a beautiful, clear blue sky with a full moon. Anyway, the moon operator, just before we hooked up, said, "Jack, you want to watch us up close?" Yeah. He called this fancy place where he lived back there in the moon pod, called the ironing board. Nice military term for a flat board that you operate on. He said, "Just come back here, lay down right beside me on the ironing board here. Don't touch anything. Don't worry, Ben, I'm not going to touch you." He said, "Just look over my head and shoulders, get as close as you can, but don't touch anything." He said, "You'll have a ringside seat." And I did. I got to watch that B-52 climb up there, park, and take on fuel under a full moon. I said, "Man, it's a long way from the cotton fields in northeast Arkansas."
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, that's not even the rest of the story. My son and I went to that museum in Arizona, right across the highway from Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, and about 15 miles north of the Titan Museum is a humongous place called the Pima Air and Space Museum. You ever heard of it?
I have not.
80 acres, 300 airplanes.
Wow.
And then they got 20 or so hangars with the smaller planes, including the replica of Doolittle's Raiders plane. So we walked out there. We was out there about 3 hours in the museum, looking everything over, and you won't believe it, but we walked out there, and I said, "Daryl, they won't have my old plane. It's prehistoric. They probably won't have a copy of my old plane out here anywhere, you know." But we looked and looked and looked and looked and looked some more, and believe it or not, we not only found a KC-97, we found the actual plane I flew mission on
Oh,
in that museum.
my.
And that picture of me standing by my plane was taken 67 years after I flew that mission.
Wow.
That's my Paul Harvey story. It's not much, but it's my Paul Harvey story. I couldn't believe that.
That's great.
It is, isn't it? Y'all bored yet?
No.
No.
No, not at all. So what, you said there were 2 and 2, 2 enlisted and 2 officers on duty.
Right.
Was it 1 enlisted and 1 officer always on, or was it?
2 officers, 2 enlisted. It was a 4-man crew,
4 always.
24 hours a day. But we could take a nap. 1 officer, 1 enlisted guy could go up and take a nap.
Okay, that's
But
what I wondered, if
We had
they
1 officer, 1 enlisted guy on deck,
on deck all the
on that
time.
console all the time. 24/7, 25 years. We had 1/3 of the throw power, the explosive power. The 24, 54, I'll get the right, 54 missiles in the fleet. Davis-Monthan, Arizona, Kansas, and Arkansas. We had 1/3 of the firepower of everything else, all the other aircraft, missiles, submarine launch missiles, all of them put together. We had 1/3 of the firepower in those 54 Titans.
Wow.
Did you science teacher. Did you have to wear like a dosimeter while you were
Yes.
down there the whole time? So
Earplugs and dosimeter
Yep.
tacked right on our uniform. You guys know what that is?
The dosimeter is for radiation.
Yep.
The earplug is
We were
signal.
exposed to nuclear stuff, but not directly.
Yeah.
Right, because it was in the warhead.
Yep. But we had to go out there. One of the scariest things I had to do out there was that occasionally, because that liquid fuel was so dangerous to work with, and so you developed little leaks. We had to go out with a portable vapor detector, crawl inside that live missile, and poke around with a long probe and find out where the leak was coming from and how many parts per million. We got to see we didn't have breathing apparatus, so it got to be a certain parts per million. We backed out there immediately and called the maintenance people.
Yeah, as soon as the Geiger counter went off, they evacuated.
You go, oh no,
And yeah, we're gone.
time to leave.
Man.
Now, you're a science teacher, right?
Yes.
I got a story you will not believe. And this is a personal story. It's kind of like a Paul Harvey story on steroids, but it's personal. I entered the Air Force from a broken home. Single mom, 5 kids, living below the poverty level, before they even knew what it was. My mom knew I'd never amount to anything. I knew I'd never amount to anything. I had an 8th grade education. You'll really appreciate this story. I wasn't old enough to join. I wasn't old enough for the draft. But I looked around the real world around me. All I knew was pick cotton. 8th grade education. No hope for any kind of future. I told my mom, I said, Mom, won't you sign me to go in the Air Force? I'll never amount to anything if I don't go in the Air Force or some branch of the service. So I just joined the Air Force. They didn't ask me my education level. The recruiter would have been fired probably, but he must have been working on his quota that day. He didn't ask me my education level. I joined 8th grade education. When
How
I
old
was
were you?
21, I got my GED. When I was in my 30s, I started taking college classes. It took me 8 years, and it was 16 years between the 8th grade and my first college class. It took me 8 years to get a college degree, a bachelor's degree. A bachelor's degree in social science area, okay? Because I was a people person, not a technician. At heart, I was not a technician. I was a people person. It developed over the years. So I got my bachelor's degree when I was 30 years old, 20 years service. I came back to the Rock Air Force Base. I was teaching at a military academy at the time. I did everything I could to get. I was on the senior instructor crew. I volunteered to go to the Strategic Air Command NCO Academy because I had been a leadership school undergraduate, learned how to do the HUP 2, 3, 4 thing. I was selected by my group of people in my flight to be the drill sergeant for the 6th flight competition at the end of the class. I won the military training award, and the guy that later on became the 5th Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. He just, Jack, you're pretty sharp. I'm going to nominate you to be a leadership skill instructor. So I taught in that academy for young NCOs for 4.5 years. While I was there, I finished my college degree with Louisiana Tech. While I was teaching, I was also learning. I got my degree when I was 38 years old, 20 years service, and came back into the missile field at Webster University, St. Louis, Missouri. Webster Groves, Missouri, had just started a master's program on base. I was one of the first students in it. The rest of the people were officers. I was an NCO. I was unique. I was an NCO with a master's degree,
Right.
working on a master's degree. It was all young officers in my class. I was the old timer.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got my bachelor's degree in 18 months, master's degree in 18 months. Going back to squad, so you're unusual. You're an NCO. You got a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, a teaching assistant. You're going to be our career advisor, our equal opportunity NCO, our complaints NCO for the IG, and on and on. I had all the people jobs. I was Mr. People Person,
Yeah.
and I influenced. I had a bunch of young officers say, "You were an NCO, we were officers, young officers. You influenced us in our entire military career." So that's kind of a story too. But anyway, I got my degree, master's degree in human relations. Would you believe that? Human relations. Later on, they beefed the program up a little bit, made it human resources development. when I was just plain old human relations. I got my degree in 18 months. And then when I had 25 years service, in the meantime, my wing commander personally picked me to be a first sergeant, which I loved. But my Air Force specialty was Titan missile crew member, control tour. My rank was senior master sergeant, E8. You had to be a master sergeant or a selectee to be a first sergeant, or you had the wrong specialty and the wrong FSC. So my wing commander went up to me, what personnel put in for it? Went up there, and he said, we can't do it. You're not qualified. I said, well, the truth is I'm overqualified. My wing commander thinks so anyway. So the wing commander, I went back to the wing, and the squadron commander, the wing commander said, go back up here, I'll call the officer in charge. You're gonna be put in for first sergeant. They sent it to the SAC. You won't believe this story, folks. These are true war stories. He went to SAC headquarters, and a one-star general called me. He just happened to be the base commander when I was at Barksdale, teaching leadership school, and working on my degree. He said, Sergeant Meadows, I kind of lost track of you a couple of years ago. I wonder where you got off to. But he says, I know you, and I can know Colonel Wing, and your wing commander. He said, not a chance in the world you're going to get this because of the wrong rank, wrong FSC. Because I know you, and I know Colonel Morgan, and you are being wasted on a crew because you got a two-striper, and a two-striper can do your job except for the senior instructor job. So I'm going to send it to personnel headquarters in San Antonio, but don't expect any miracles. It's not going to happen. It's a personal endorsement from me, but don't expect it to happen. 2 days later, I got a call from a colonel, Colonel Fink. I'm not making this up. His name was Colonel Fink. He said, what in the world are you trying to pull, Sergeant Meadows? He said, your overseas return date is prehistoric because when you're in aircraft maintenance, he said, you haven't been overseas in years and years and years. You're in the wrong rank, wrong FSC. There's no way I can approve this. And he was the final approving authority. I said, sir, with all due respect, you got your job to do. You're a senior officer. I'm a senior NCO. With all due respect, I got 24 and a half years service and a master's degree, all acquired on duty. I'm going to be a first sergeant. I'm going to be retired. I became a first sergeant with a double waiver. That's another success.
That's awesome.
Based on being in the right place at the right time with the right stuff. And I really volunteered for the hard jobs. I really was. I started so far down the totem pole, no way to go but up, you know.
Yeah.
Now, are you ready for this, Miss Science teacher?
Yes.
When I retired, the guy that's running Webster University program on base, the director, changed jobs. I filled out an application to be director of Webster University on base and got it.
That's awesome.
One day I was a senior NCO, the next day we were director of Webster University master's program.
That's awesome. See, anything can happen.
And I encourage everybody to come, if they bring teenagers with them or young people, I say, what's your plans? They say, well, I'm going to do this. I met a guy that said, I'm going to welding school. I said, good for you. You need a trade. So go to welding school. It doesn't work out. I got a backup plan. To join any branch of the military, preferably the Air Force. You go in reserve, the National Guard, or active duty. Serve one term, it's not going to kill you.
Right.
Look at the 30 days paid vacation a year right off the bat, free medical. Of course, you have to pay a little bit for your medical now. You have to subsidize it. But training, travel, education, and to stay one term and get out. Look what you gained.
Mm-hmm.
If you can make up your mind whether to go career or not after that one term. So, that's my speech.